Hello. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not an artist, so you'll have to excuse the crudeness of this. But I wanted to touch base on something that I heard about recently with Bill Gates funding a company to try to spray aerosolized particles into the atmosphere in an effort to reflect the sun. So I've got this drawing here of the Earth. We've got the sun, land, we've got a solar panel here, we've got a wind turbine here, we've got a lake with a dam for hydroelectric, there's the ocean, there's a cloud. Now, the way this all works, you've got your sunlight comes down, heats the surface of the water. As the water heats, it evaporates, forms into clouds. As it hits the land, it warms the land, and then that in turn warms the air above it, which rises. Now, as that air rises, it takes and pulls the cooler water from over the ocean inland in the form of wind. Now, this brings storms with it, brings precipitation. Yeah, that's where you get your snow for the mountains. You've got rainfall goes into the lakes and rivers, and agriculture. You know, you've got to have water to have crops grow. Also, sunlight helps the crops grow. Now, if you were to take and block out a portion of the light coming off of the sun, where it's not all reaching here, you're going to take and reduce the amount of warming that's happening with the water, so there won't be as much evaporation. Less evaporation means less water is going to be in the clouds to be able to rain. Less heating on the land means there won't be as many thermal updrafts of the air where it's going up to pull the air in from the ocean, so there won't be as much wind. People might not think that's necessarily a bad thing, but if you've got less water for the rain, you've got less rain on your crops, you've got less snowfall in the mountains, so less snowpack that's going to melt and refill your reservoirs and your dams and keep your rivers flowing. Less rainfall to feed into that as well. Now, less wind, so your turbines could be impacted. Wouldn't have as high of an output. Less sunlight, so your solar panels wouldn't have as much output. Less water, so you'd be limited on your hydroelectric options. Where this comes into play to me is that everything is being pushed to go electric. They want your houses to be electric, they want your cars to be electric, they want trucks to be electric. If you're reducing the amount of electricity that you can produce, how is that going to be sustained? If they're pushing for plant-based diets and you've got less sunlight and less precipitation, you're going to have issues with your crops. How is that sustainable? Now, through Carbon Brief, they did a study testing core samples from history of the planet in multiple regions, and they found that volcanic eruptions had an impact on global temperatures. They caused them to cool. The idea of spraying these particulates is an attempt to recreate that idea. Replicate those conditions. So you've got these particulates, they act similar to what the clouds from the volcanic ash did. Filter out light so it doesn't reach the planet. Idea is to cool it. Well, what they found when they were studying these ancient volcanic eruptions is that it impacted agriculture-based societies. It most likely led to the growth of bacteria and viruses and some of the pandemics that had happened in between the years 500 BC and 1000 AD. And they're saying that 15 of the 16 coldest summers in that range were due to volcanic eruptions. They immediately followed them. Now, one of the things that comes from that is they had a decimation of populations from pandemics. They had agriculture struggling because plants need sunlight for photosynthesis. People eating plants or trying to eat plants, or animals trying to eat plants that people are trying to eat. There's a potential trickle down effect on all of this. There's nothing saying that for sure this will happen, but there's also nothing saying it won't. This is untested science, and it's something that I think should be looked into and discussed as a whole, by humanity as a whole, as opposed to an eccentric billionaire going, "Oh, this seems like a good idea. Let's do this," because it potentially impacts everyone, not just him. Anyways, that's my 2 cents.